Into order. We have 5 members of the board present currently. Member Ms. Phelps and Mr. Twigg are not in attendance as of yet. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Blaine to approve the agenda as presented with a second by Mr. Braswell. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried 5-0. On to item 2. Be it resolved that the board conduct a closed meeting for the following purposes: consideration of candidates for employment, assignment, promotion, demotion, and discipline of employees, or resignation of employees who have a contractual commitment to the board as permitted by 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia. Consultation with legal counsel on a matter involving actual or probable litigation where such consultation or briefing in an open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigation posture of the public body as permitted by Section 2.2-3711A7 of the Code of Virginia. In consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members pertaining to actual or probable litigation where such consultation or briefing in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiation or litigation posture of the public body pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A8 of the Code of Virginia. We have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Shelley. Second by Mr. Braswell. We are now in closed. Oh, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We are now in closed session. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Please note for the record that Mr. Twigg has joined us. Certification of closed meeting. Whereas the Spotsylvania County School Board has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Freedom of Information Act. And whereas Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the school board that such a closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law, now therefore be it resolved that the Spotsylvania County School Board hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under this chapter, and such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Meyer to certify, second by Mr. Blaine. Roll call vote starting with Ms. Shelley.
Shelley, aye.
Meyer, aye.
Braswell, aye.
Twig eye.
Blaine, aye.
Gramp, aye. Motion carries 6-0. Items from closed meeting, Dr. Martin.
Madam Chair, we have 3 motions coming out of closed session. First motion is that the school board accepts the recommendation of the superintendent for personnel appointments, assignments, title change, resignations, and retirements as presented in closed meeting and permitted by Section 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia.
I'll move the recommended motion.
Motion by Mr. Blaine to approve the recommended motion, second by Ms. Shelley. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Second motion is that the school board approve the food service agreement between Spotsylvania County School Board and Sodexo for the term of August 16th, 2018 through June 30th, 2019, which is renewable by mutual agreement for up to 4 additional one-year terms.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Meyer to approve the recommended action, second by Mr. Braswell. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. And to the third, Dr. Martin.
That the school board approve the mediation settlement agreement with CJ Maintenance Incorporated in the amount of $525,000.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Motion by Dr. Meyer, second by Mr. Blaine. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. And that brings us to item 5.01. We are now in recess. I hope you guys had a lovely first day of school today. Can we have a motion to return to open session?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Motion by Dr. Meyer to return to open session, second by Mr. Twigg. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Please note Mrs. Phelps has joined us, so we are now 7 members. I'd ask you to please remember to silence your cell phones. And Mr. Twigg, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Brings us to item 7, public hearing. There is none this evening. We will move on to the consent agenda. Dr. Martin.
On the consent agenda this evening are the minutes of the July 9th, 2018 regular meeting and the August 6th, 2018 special meeting, donations which are used when customary, approval of bus service on private roads for the following areas: Fawn Lake, Lake Wilderness, and Salem Fields Early Learning Center, and the approval of purchase of canoes and trailers with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration grant funds to be maintained and stored at Lake Anna State Park. Staff asks that the consent agenda be approved as presented.
I would like to make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Ms. Shelley to approve the consent agenda, second by Dr. Meyer. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0 to approve the consent agenda. Brings us to item 9, informational items. Attached to the agenda was the field trip summary report and items for the September 10th board meeting. There are none instructional highlight this evening. No recognitions and awards yet. Next meeting, those will be there. And that brings us to item 12, public comments. Dr. Martin, who is not back yet.
The public comment segment of our board meetings is a time to receive recommendations, suggestions, concerns, and comments from the general public. Each speaker is allotted 5 minutes. We ask that they clearly state their name, address, and/or voting district for the board. A speaker may request additional time for the board should one's 5-minute allotment expire. We ask that you keep your comments focused on the issues and that all speakers maintain a level of decorum and mutual respect for one another. Madam Chair, we do not have any speakers signed up at this time.
Do we have anybody in the audience this evening that did not get to sign up that wishes to address the board? Seeing none, that brings us to item 13, special reports. Board, we'll start with board committee reports. Does anybody have a board committee report? Ms. Shelley.
Thank you, Ms. Gramp. I just wanted to mention that the Spotsylvania Education Foundation, we had a meeting a couple weeks ago. Just in case you don't know, the Spotsylvania Education Foundation attracts private funding to support innovative programs and projects for students and employees of Spotsylvania County Schools. And right now we are short a few board members. So if you know of anyone who would be interested in putting in their resume to possibly be a board member on the Spotsylvania Education Foundation, just send me an email and I will put you in contact with whomever I need to put you in contact with. Thank you.
Mr. Braswell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make a quick report on the Cortland renovation. I want to thank school staff for their work in support of the construction that's going on in the Cortland renovation. Everything was ahead of schedule, and I especially want to thank our Rusty Davis for his hard work in coordinating as a project officer for Cortland for the work that he's done there. Always knows what's going on, is always coordinating in the best interest of the school division, and so I just wanted to take an opportunity to give him some public love for his work on the Cortland renovation. Thank you, sir.
Dr. Meyer.
Had a chance to visit Cortland High renovation in progress last Tuesday. Mr. Blaine and I walked the building. Want to thank Rusty Davis for taking us through the building so that we could actually see what's going on and the extensive amount of work that is occurring and the effort that's being made for the parents who were going to tour the building on Wednesday evening. And the tremendous, I mean, it's just phenomenal to be able to see the amount of work, preparing the student entrance and making ready for the transition with a timeline to finish phase one by the beginning of December or mid-December at the latest. And so kudos to the contractor, to Rusty Davis. I know the principal must be getting more gray hair as he goes through to get ready to live with work in progress, and for the staff and them, because you always see the sign, please excuse the inconvenience, work in progress, may be dusty, but I think at the end, they will see a tremendous, tremendous difference from what it was. I asked Rusty if he was really documenting with pictures so that we could do before and after to show the difference, and I think everyone's going to be absolutely amazed and appreciate the exemplary work that's going on there. So kudos to everyone for making that happen.
Any other board committee reports? Brings us to item 13.02, the superintendent report. Dr. Baker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, we have a short agenda, so I don't want to take too much time, also given that the school board will be joining the Board of Supervisors for a joint session tomorrow evening. But I did want to, again, thank so many people. I can't thank them all by name and individually by title, but I just want to thank our entire staff and all the community support that we've received in managing, a shorter summer and getting started today. And really it began even before the summer, all of the preparations and the planning, but I am so blessed to be surrounded by the quality of staff, many of which are in this room right now. I want to highlight a couple of things that I think are part of a strong start that I was able to witness today. One is the Leadership Learning Exchange. I want to thank Mike Brown and all of the folks in the instructional team that helped to put together 2 quality days of professional learning. And there was a great deal of enthusiasm and, again, that momentum that we're able to carry forward. I provided some words early on under the themes of for us all to learn, lead, and love. And I think that those qualities are in abundance as we start this school year. I also wanted to thank Ms. Colbert and our Human Resources team. As you know, we as well as other school divisions throughout the Commonwealth and the nation continue to try to manage a school or a teacher shortage, and I again continue to be so impressed with the recruitment efforts, and that we still have a few vacancies, but for the most part they've been able to keep us ahead and get us started with almost every single position filled. And we also were able to welcome our new teachers to our school division last week, or a little bit before last week, and have a lot of great new talent coming from many different places, many out of state. So we're also very excited about that. I wanted to highlight today, I want to thank Kenny Forrest for giving me the opportunity to start my day, and it's a very early start, but I don't do that every day, but somebody does. I had the opportunity to ride along with Miss Sally Wright, who drives bus 329 for Spotsylvania High School, and she also drives for Berkeley Elementary, and really enjoyed getting to know her and hearing from her the experience that she has had as a bus driver, and seeing again how she knows knows her way around areas that I was lost instantly out in the Berkeley area. And one of the things that I learned today that I didn't know until I talked with her for a while, Sally's grown up here in Spotsylvania, and she has worked in Spotsylvania for her entire career. She has driven a school bus for Spotsylvania County for 49 years. and just found that to be inspirational in and of itself. But I want to thank her for giving me that opportunity. It's an opportunity I'm going to try to take advantage of, not only with Ms. Wright, but with other drivers, because we're going to continue to need not only high-quality bus drivers, but probably more of them, and we're going to need more support in the area of transportation, given that we want to expand opportunities for students, particularly at the high school, for even more shuttling as we move forward. And then I want to thank the folks that were able to go along with me to all 31 of our sites today. And I just can't give our principals and their staffs enough credit. You would not have thought that this was a quick start. You would have thought that they had it all under control, and at least they gave that impression in the short period of time that we were at each school. But I'd like to thank all of them, and I know my child started school back today, and I think they were welcome to our students and hopefully had a good first day. But thank you to all of our principals, leaders, teachers, and staff for making this such a great first day. And I want to, another thing that we were able to see as we went around to the schools, and I know that many, the Cortland renovation was referenced, but I also want to reference, again, in short order, high-quality work was done for some of our entrances that we had wanted to provide a greater security and more enhanced controls. And getting to go to, Chancellor Middle School, Chancellor High School, Thornburg Middle School, and even Chancellor Elementary School, just as some examples. Hopefully, board members and others will be able to go out and see the good work. And I know Mr. Davis was referenced as someone who's helped to oversee those projects, but also give credit to Mr. Upperco, Mr. Hockaday, and really all the folks that are working to get those things done, again, within a time crunch. And then finally, we know that we're going to have continued challenges in our work each and every day, but I think it's important to make sure that we do highlight when we have a moment to celebrate. And even though it's always preliminary until we receive the final data from the state, either from the DOE directly or through the reports, we have been given a very strong indication, and I think it's safe to say that 100% of our schools will be fully accredited going into this school year. And I know that we had one school that made it over the top, and I think that school not only deserved it, I like to believe that it's also due to an entire community and an entire group of leaders that work together to try to make sure that we all raise each other up. But I thank them for their tremendous work, for all the supports that Ms. Flanard and our folks helped to provide that school and others. But again, a true team effort, and I am just humbled and proud to be a part of that success. So with that, thank you.
Before we move on to our action items, just want to take a second to acknowledge some people in the audience. I'd like to thank Sergeant Carter for being here this evening. I acknowledge Dr. Paul Trampy, who is here this evening, the supervisor from the Salem District. And I want to thank Ms. Elizabeth Ewing, the Director of Legal and Policy Services at the Virginia School Board Association. So thanks for joining us this evening. And that'll bring us to our first action item, 14.01, the first reading approval of revisions to school board policies, VSBA May 2018 updates. Dr. Martin. They were included in our packet.
The board has that in their packets, and I think it's presented to you in block. So I think everybody had the opportunity to go over those policies, so it's just a matter of the motion for first reading approval unless someone has questions or need clarifications.
Perfect. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'll make the recommendation to approve the policies as submitted for first reading in block.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Dr. Meyer to approve the policies in block, second by Ms. Shelley. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. So since we did it in block, we don't need 14.02, or we need to do that as well?
Yes, and those are staff recommendations for policy updates, and those are presented to you in block as well as the number four policies in there. And board members receive those in the checklist and the policy index manual. So just seeking approval for first reading on those.
Perfect.
I will make a motion to approve as projected.
Motion by Mr. Blaine to approve the first reading of those revisions.
I'll second that nomination.
Second by Dr. Meyer. Any discussion? Ms. Shelley?
I just have a quick question about JNR, so regulation, trying to find my notes. It says fees, and then it says no fees for elementary, but it doesn't say no fees for middle school, nor does it, I don't know if I'm making any sense. So I'm looking at the policy. It says for elementary school, no fees. And then middle school is completely marked out. And then high schools, it has the fees. So because it says fees, no fees for elementary school, I wonder if we need to add no fees for middle school. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. I noticed it last night, and I apologize I did not mention it earlier. Thank you. That's all. So I know we can approve it for first reading because anything that needs to be checked or corrected, it would be corrected for second reading, and then we're good to go.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of approving those revisions first reading? Any opposed? Motion carried 7-0. Brings us to 14.03, the budget amendment number 3, categorical budget amendment from instruction budget category to technology budget category for student instructional purchases. Mrs. Gaines.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Madam Chair, school board members, Dr. Baker, and Dr. Martin. In an effort to comply with VDOE's account code structure, which requires technology software and hardware purchases to be coded to technology, staff is in need of a categorical budget transfer in the amount of $61,357, going from instruction into technology. The school site purchases will include license renewals for student learning, subscriptions, as well as hardware for students. So at this time, staff is recommending that you approve Budget Amendment 3 as presented.
There needs to be a motion before there is
I will make
discussion.
that motion.
Motion by Mr. Blaine to approve the budget amendment number 3.
Second.
A second by Mr. Braswell. Any discussion? Mrs. Phelps.
You just read off 61,357, and in my notes on the agenda said 63,943.
Yes,
Is there
ma'am.
a difference from?
Yes. So from last week, we've been communicating with 2 schools for them to look at their numbers and verify that was the amount that was needed. We did have one adjustment come in from Riverbend High School and one adjustment to come from Battlefield. So if you look at board docs, as of this morning, you see the 61,357.
Oh, that was changed this morning?
Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
so I printed it out yesterday.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I got
We
you.
wanted to give you the greatest and the latest.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Shelley.
I was just wondering about the student keyboards and monitors. Are they usually CIP? And then today, I was just kind of wanting to know the difference.
So as a rule of thumb, when you're buying in large purchases, yes, CIP. But this is when you have little, small purchases that break and you're about 1 or 2 here or there. Sure.
Any more discussion? All those in favor of approving budget amendment number 3? Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gaines. On to 14.04, renewal of virtual online learning and digital content instructional resources.
Good evening. Edgenuity offers an extensive course catalog to middle and high schools, including core courses such as mathematics, social studies, world languages, advanced placement, English language arts, and a variety of electives. We are currently using Edgenuity to provide digital content in our 5 division high schools, 7 middle schools, and John J. Wright Education and Cultural Center. The digital content offered includes blended learning opportunities, credit recovery, new course offerings, and high school summer school credit content. The request is to renew the Edgenuity contract for 5 site licenses and 35 concurrent seats for middle school students to accommodate the growing need for online and blended learning opportunities for secondary students. It is the administration's recommendation that the school board approves the request to renew virtual online learning and digital content instructional resources. Thank you.
I will make the motion for renewal of virtual online learning and digital content instructional resources.
Motion by Ms. Shelley to approve the renewal of virtual and online digital content instructional resources, with a second from Mr. Twig. Any discussion? Ms. Phelps?
I have a couple questions. Does this curriculum that we have encompass the homebound students?
In some cases, it does include homebound. It's up to whether or not it's appropriate for the student and their accessibility to the content as to whether or not it's used for homebound.
And so if parents would like to or enroll their student or their child in virtual learning, would this be something that's offered to them?
Typically, no. When we offer a class for new credit, so a student that is potentially trying to take a class to accelerate, or they want to take, like, our most popular offering is economics and personal finance and the initial credit side. They might want to take that virtually, so they'll do that over the summer, so that they can pursue an elective or participate in something like JROTC during the school year. So that is one way that it's used, but it's not the only way.
Could this be a way to place a bully who, instead of getting punished, would be able to use this virtual online course or curriculum?
We've used it to personalize for students based on a variety of circumstances. So typically when a student needs content or they need to be removed from a situation for whatever reason, it is an option in providing that content. It's not required. So we've had students that might need a course that we don't provide. So we have a middle school student that wants to take Algebra 2 because they transferred in and that's where they are in mathematics. So in that case, the school can provide the location and the instructor, and we provide the content with this product. So if you think of it that way, you could use it in that circumstance. It just depends student to student, which is one thing that's really nice about it, is that it is fairly customizable.
That's great. That's it. That's great. Yeah, that's it. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Mr. Twig?
And just for clarity, who will manage and decide who participants are for this program, please?
So it starts with me and in partnership with the schools. So I work a lot with the counseling departments in the schools because they know the students personally, they know what they need.
So they'll call you?
They call me or email me, or a teacher will email me. I'm the person between the content and the school, but I usually work with whomever is closest to the student.
Check, thank you. And then do you have a cap, like you can only endure 25 math students in the 8th grade at one time?
So the middle school license, the request is for 35 concurrent seats, and that is a cap at any given point in time. So at any point,
grade?
In 6 through 8. So at any time, we would have 35 students sitting and using the content. In the high school, the site licenses allow for it to be used just about by everybody in the high school, 9 through 12. There's a program, we have an eLab program in each of the high schools, and there is a cap within that program.
Sure.
Because we fund facilitators for that program. So.
And is the high school program managed by you as well?
No, we have people, usually a school administrator that serves as an eLab coordinator.
Check.
And so they manage that, and then I work with them to make sure people are paid and that we're staying within budget.
And curriculum's available, et cetera?
Yes, curriculum is available, and that the site license opens quite a bit up to them to use it in the schools.
Thank you for your time.
Of course. Yes, ma'am.
Another question. This is renewing a contract that was approved in 2013? Is that what the
So
149.5?
it's an annual contract, and it hasn't gone to the board. So we're making sure that it comes today to the board to be approved because of the dollar amount.
Have we been using this?
We have been using it
continually
since 2013.
2000,
Roughly 2013.
13.
The company, I believe, has evolved since its original inception, so we may have partnered with them prior to 2013. I've been in this role since 2016, and so since I have been sitting, we've been using this product.
so the school board approved it in 2013. Do you know what the original contract, was it the same cost, 149.5?
I'm not aware of the dollar amount at that time.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Mr. Blaine?
I'm very interested, frankly, in the virtual learning and look forward to learning more about it. About how many students have actually taken advantage of it? Do you have any sense?
We do. When I look at our numbers for eLab, it's about 500 students strictly in the eLab program a year, and that's across the 5 high schools. And then when you start looking at summer school, last year we had numbers over 500 that were accessing it for repeat and recovery. Every year, for the past several years, we've had a 100% virtual program that was close to 200 students taking courses for new credit just this summer. With the blended, it's a different way for teachers to think about how they customize and personalize what the students are accessing in the classroom. So the numbers seem to fluctuate there. I know there's some blended, a couple of classrooms here and there in every high school, but there's a plan to see those numbers grow. And that site license, we first started with the site license last year to allow for teachers to use it in a blended environment, and we saw a lot of interest, particularly in schools that their school improvement plans had goals that looked at personalizing student learning and recovering learning and trying to help with graduation and passing and preventing failure. And so as that interest grows, the program use has continued to grow.
And have you gotten any feedback from parents?
We have, on the early side, it's something that we're still looking at for getting for this past summer.
Early, I mean, at the lower grades?
No, a couple of years ago
Okay.
in that side, yes, that early.
Well, good. That's a good report. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of approving the renewal of the virtual learning contract?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Horn.
Thank you.
On to 14.05, a second reading approval of policy IKFD, alternate paths to attaining standard units of credit. Mr. Mitchell.
Good evening, board members, Madam Chair, Dr. Baker, Dr. Martin. I'd like to present for second reading policy IKFD, which establishes alternative pathways for earning high school credit, apart from standard 140-hour class setting. Again, this policy sets guidelines for creative learning opportunities that go beyond the traditional classroom. And I'd like to answer questions if I can.
I will make a motion to approve second reading approval of policy IKFD, alternative paths to attaining standard units of credit.
I will second that.
Motion by Ms. Shelley to approve the second reading of policy IKFD with a second from Mr. Blaine. Any discussion?
I'd just like to have you comment, if it's possible. You're using virtual learning experiences as possible for some students to use. Am I correct or not?
Not necessarily. Essentially, within the policy, there are multiple pathways that they could earn credit. One of those would be if a student were learning outside of the classroom through an internship and wanted to, for example, in a cybersecurity internship, and wanted to supplement what we would teach in our cybersecurity course and combine those two. It wouldn't necessarily have to be, although that specific example would be in an online format, but it wouldn't necessarily be online. It may be online or in-person learning.
But the online is an accessible way to do it if you identify the source of providing the training.
Yes. Yes, sir.
And has that been utilized very often?
Not with regards to this policy specifically. This is a new policy that we're proposing, and so, no,
Yeah.
sir.
Thank you.
Any more, Ms. Phelps?
Can you give me an example on the other formats other than traditional? Like, what would be an example that would entail this policy?
Sure.
Just for the public to know and myself.
No, that's great, thank you. Example, if we had a student who took a homeschool class, for example, and then came to us, but that was through an unaccredited homeschool program, this policy would provide a framework which would allow us to, if that student takes a nationally recognized assessment, give that student credit, whereas currently we don't have a situation to do that. Also, another specific example that currently we would look forward to using this for, we'll have students who will come in, and because they have prior language experience, even though it may not be in a formalized classroom setting, those individuals may test into a foreign language class such as a level 2 or a level 3, but currently we don't have a policy in place to be able to award them credit for the language levels that they've already mastered. And so this allows those students who can test into a higher level of foreign language or another, or for a foreign language, to be able to earn credit for the levels that they have already demonstrated mastery. Yes.
Any more discussion? All those in favor of the second reading approval of policy IKFD? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to item 15.01, board member comments. We'll begin with Mr. Blaine.
Well, thank you. It's a privilege to lead off. I first of all would like to welcome back our faculty and our staff. I can't say enough nice things about what you folks have accomplished throughout the year, and I have many opportunities as I'm talking to parents to brag about what Spotsylvania County Public Schools accomplish. And I just welcome you with a very warm handshake and welcome. I want to take a minute or so to talk about another issue. And I'm going to make a request at this time, actually, and want to thank, first of all, the board and the administration and Mr. Braswell for his perseverance in eliminating the fees for students in sports. I think that's a real accomplishment, Barron. You've worked industriously at that, and I'd like to ensure that many parents would applaud as well and deserve that compliments. I want now, though, to focus a little bit on another area. We have a similar need, and I've been interested myself very much in the fine arts area, and I'm especially interested and would like to see us make especially music programs more available and resolve some of the financial responsibilities that exist at this point. And I would like had reports of anywhere from maybe if you want to be in a marching band, it might run as high as $1,000 a student. That has to be, I don't mean from a student, but that's the cost of doing it, from maybe $350 in some of the schools. And I find that would be discouraging, I think, for many, many parents. And I would like, though, to have a good understanding and not a lot of guesswork. So I'd like to make a request of the administration to ask you to make a report the costs involved in several musical programs, and my immediate concern, frankly, because the football season starting is the marching band group, and other than any other first semester sport activities in addition. And I think would like to have it answer the question, what is the actual range of fees that are involved? How much money is it really cost for us to get kids from their home to the school where the football players are playing and so on? Those kinds of expenses. What's the range of fees? What do they cover? Are there any transportation fees that students have to pick up to get there, or the school pick up? that the county, that we're not budgeting at this level. And wonder what the cost of division would be if we were to pick up some of those costs. I'm just interested in making more kids have an opportunity to participate in this kind of an activity. And I wonder, that particular part of the request really is to have it ready for our next board meeting, so we can, because getting started in the fall right away. I don't want this to be a big undertaking, but I think we should be able to answer those questions, and we'll have an opportunity to discuss and see what actions we might be able to take at a later time. Thank you.
Mr. Twigg?
Appreciate everybody's enduring labor and hard work, from the front office to the very student, each and every student, and to the transportation. We've done a fine job over the last several years. Our scores continue to pass in the SOL department, and that's exciting, and we've accentuated the arts and music and sports as part of our quality education here in this county, and I, for one, am excited to be a part of that. Especially would like, though, to say that having been at our back-to-school nights for Post Oak Middle and Spotsy High, right in the heart of my district, this past week, that I saw so much excitement and energy on behalf of the students and the staff, and it's just a lot of fun to see all of their eyes brighten and going up and to their teachers for this coming year, and being excited for what they're about to get into. They're anxious and eager to learn. But I was particularly, what took me back was the amount of students that showed up to each of those schools each of those afternoons. So to me, that's a statistic that speaks volumes toward a lot of good things that are happening down in those parts. The better part of the county, I'd like to say, but hats off to our principals. They're both here this evening. And I saw our band director at one point this evening, and so just a lot of good things happening. Just look for continued good quality and better things from Spotsylvania High School and Livingston District. Thank you.
Mr. Braswell?
Madam Chair, thank you. First of all, I'd like to commend the administration and all the teachers for preparing our children for a wonderful back-to-school experience today. It was a pleasure to, as I was riding to work, seeing all the school buses on the road, and it's just a pleasure to see that school has started over again. A lot of exciting things there. I want to make an announcement that on the 22nd of September at 8:30 at Cortland High School, we'll have our 13th annual Race Against Teen Violence. Every year, the race gets larger and larger. Last year, we had well over 1,000 participants, and we're looking forward to that number growing again. As usual, I am preparing myself to be able to compete in the race. I usually I don't look good coming across the finish line, but I finish. So I just ask everyone to come on out and support us. It's a great cause and just a lot of fun. It's one event each year where a group of kids from a variety of different schools and different parts of this county and throughout the state that can come together and have a good time without any mess. So the 13th annual race on the 22nd of September. I also want to caveat what Mr. Blaine mentioned about the fees that are associated with marching bands and others that participate in the arts. It is a very extensive set of fundraising that a lot of parents have to engage in order for their children to participate in those activities that are worthwhile activities. And I support your desire to look into those fees and how we can help parents mitigate some of the costs that are involved in that. There's a lot of costs as it pertains to uniforms, there's a lot of costs as it pertains to competition, but they create an educational experience second to none. And so I also, Mr. Blaine, would like to find out what the costs are associated with that so that we would be able to maybe provide some assistance to our band parents and others that engage in the arts so that all children would have the ability to participate. I don't believe that money should be a barrier for children to have an opportunity to enrich their lives through education. And then finally, I want to make mention of something that I've discussed on various different occasions about in the future Spotsylvania County having a state-of-the-art career and technical center. To me, having a career and technical center makes sense economically, it makes sense educationally, it just makes good sense. And we need to not only have a liaison between our current career and tech subjects that we teach, or the traditional ones, but we need to prepare ourselves for cyber tech and biotech and a variety of other disciplines that are going to be the jobs of the future. It's going to be important in that more children are going to attend or need certification for licensing than they're going to need a college education. And we need to make sure that our children are career and college ready. And so I think we need to look at investing in a career and tech center that provides an expanded program of instruction, and it also has the ability to inspire or economic development in our area. I mean, if we have a state-of-the-art career and tech center where the employees of the future are being trained, employers are going to move into this area so that they can tap into something that we start here in Spotsylvania. So I think that's something to consider, something to look at. And, you know, I would like to see not only with a career and tech center being built, but at some point, I think it would be a benefit to this county if we had a natatorium. I saw at Prince William County where they attached a natatorium to Colgan High School, and is a state-of-the-art swimming facility. And not only would our schools be able to take advantage of them, but our senior citizens would be able to take advantage of it, and it would be a great piece of infrastructure for this county to have in place to continue to attract growth in the area. So there's some things that I'm going to try to push for throughout this school year, and I'm eager to engage my peers and colleagues on the ability to make some of these things happen. Thank you.
Ms. Phelps?
Thanks. I just wanted to welcome back everybody. Can you hear me? Is that better? Okay. I just wanted to welcome everybody back to school and thank the staff and the transportation department, and also welcome back the class of 2019, because it goes quick to graduation, high school graduation. And I also wanted to leave this quote. It says, Dr. Seuss said, "You're off to great places, your mountain is waiting, so get on your way and have a successful year." And so that sticks with me, so I figured tonight was a good night to share that with everybody, and I appreciate everything that, that the staff at Cortland has done. I also need to say, having two children in the Spotsylvania County Public Schools really gives me an eye-opening wake-up call last night. I couldn't sleep, and I was having the jitters, and I didn't know why, and I kept saying to myself, well, I can get some sleep, I need some sleep, and I realized that each new school year brings me to frazzle my nerves. So my children came home today from school, Thornburg Middle School, and I have a sixth grader there that said, Mom, that was easy, and that meant a lot to this parent. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate all the determination and the hard work to get the front of our schools secure, our entrances also. And I do have something I guess I would like to bring up, and you would say it's the elephant in the room. And one thing that I've heard a lot from the community is the redistricting and the overcrowding at Massaponax High School. And so I'm just requesting that the administration communicate with us the enrollment numbers versus the houses being built in Spotsylvania County, and in order to get a pulse on the actuaries to determine the redistricting process. I don't know if the staff already has the process in place, but I do know I have been contacted by quite a bit of people regarding their perception of overcrowding at Massaponax and the building within the county. So I know it's been an elephant in the room, and so I just want to bring that up. So maybe if the staff could come back with some kind of where we're going with, if we are going to redistrict, if we're not, what the scenarios and the forecast looks like. And also I would like to hear some information and the data on the IB program. I know it was a pilot program before I got on the board, and I don't know the exact numbers of the graduates for the IB program, so maybe the cost analysis and the numbers just to be brought back to further look at it and discuss it. And that's it, and we're off to a great year, and I wish everybody a bunch of success, and I know I'm going to try hardest with my kids. Thanks.
Dr. Meyer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to first start out with congratulations on a tremendous job done with the LLE program, the Leadership Learning Exchange. I think this was the 8th year of the program. Confirm, I think it was the 8th year. And I found it very interesting the way it was coordinated with new employee extravaganza and the number of opportunities that there were. The way it was structured, I think, was kind of unique. I think it was something like, if I counted, 50 different opportunities where teachers could create their own schedule instead of have to sit through a whole day, some of which may apply, some wouldn't apply, but the teacher was really able, or the staff member, to choose those offerings that coincided with their main interest and how it impacted them in their teaching. And I thought that was very unique and definitely to be commended. I think that was a step up, a tremendous program, and to allow our new 200 employees to be able to have access to that and to be able to participate in that, to hear the speakers, it was absolutely tremendous. And I think kudos and job well done. Also want to wish our staff and students well this year. As I've heard reports, this today was an excellent day. The weather cooperated, storms held off till later, so that they were able to, we didn't have anything to interrupt our first day, and wishing everyone a very good program. Also, we had comments on renovation project and the entrances. We still have a couple more that are in the works for this year. I think Chance Elementary to be continued, Smith Station to be continued. So those are projects to enhance our security efforts that are ongoing throughout this year. I want to thank the principals and the staff for the good start that you've given, and you've got to be tired by the end of today with all your efforts today and still be sitting here tonight. Kudos to you. I don't know that I could do that anymore. The one thing I wanted to point out is, in the policy that we gave first reading to is policy IJD, which is college and career readiness. I know I've talked to Keith Wolf about maybe flipping that and saying career and college readiness, because when we're talking about the profile of a graduate, the emphasis is on developing career, not just going to college. And as much as we acknowledge at graduation time, you know, the scholarships, the 35, 40 plus million, I haven't heard the final number, what it was, but I think it's in excess of 35 a million. We give credibility and a lot of publicity to that number, but we need to also be focusing on those who are graduating but entering the workforce, and the preparations for those students we need to acknowledge as well. And that's something that is in our, part of that is incorporated in policy IJD, went for first reading tonight, and I wanted to give some publicity to that because we are going to have to put much more emphasis, greater emphasis into that part of our effort so that we are preparing our students, because I think it's shame on us as we acknowledge the students that get all the grants and the scholarships and that, we need to give a significant acknowledgement to those students, and we shouldn't have any who graduate without being able to get a job. So I think there's where we need to put some emphasis. I want to bring up kind of a pre-budget item tonight under board member comments, and that is, as much as we have said that our supplements that we have for coaches and academic mentors and those extracurricular activities, we have always put them at a stipulated amount, and they haven't changed for years. And I think we're doing a disservice to our teachers and the staff when we're asking them to do extra things and it has never been upgraded. I want to propose an idea that we cost out, that we attach a % of the salary to that, the supplement as a % of salary, so that it will automatically, if the salary changes, then the supplement's going to change. Now, I know it's going to be maybe costly, but at least let's look at it so that we're not in a situation where we pass 10 years before we've acknowledged and done anything to recognize the work that people are doing with their extra time. So I think, you know, we do need to give credibility to that, and it will help us to give more credence to the importance of what they're doing. So that's one piece of it. Another suggestion would be, and it's been brought up by other board members, as we take a look at anti-bullying, we've seen October being designated as anti-bullying month, that we use that month to inform our parents of what we are doing to address bullying. What kind of programs do we have in place? How are we doing it through our Code of Student Conduct? All the different ways that we go about addressing anti-bullying. So I think it would be important for us during the month of October. And with that, I do want to thank Dr. Trampy and Ms. Ewing for being with us from VSBA. She and I have a meeting coming up next week with the Board of Directors. And with that, I yield my time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Ms. Shelley?
Thank you. Once again, as everyone else has done, great job first day of school. I had the opportunity, because I asked, to visit the schools today, to say hi with Dr. Baker and almost Dr. Flanard and Mr. Wolf and Mrs. Baleko. I've never had the opportunity, and I had the opportunity today. So I thank you for allowing me to visit with you. All of our schools started at 6:45 this morning, and we finished about 3:20. Got to every single site, and seeing the excitement on everyone's faces. The students were excited. They were all seemed happy. The principals and the administrators that we saw were extra calm, and they very calm and collect. They knew exactly what was going on. We had a good first day of school. So I want to thank you to everyone who was involved. Maintenance for getting all the schools ready in our short summer, all of our administrators, our staff, our bus drivers, thank you. You got the kids to school and home safely today. All are accounted for, so thank you, bus drivers. So I want to say that. And then I also was able to attend the LLE, and I got my learning on as well. The sessions were amazing. Just what we have, the talented people we have here in Spotsylvania County to be able to give instruction to other staff members is just amazing that we have the talent here. So thank you to everyone who supported the LLE. It was an amazing event. And then right after that, I was able to welcome our new teachers and get to chat with some of our new people, and that was a lot of fun, and everyone is excited, and I told them they're in the best place they could have ever chosen, and we're so happy that they chose us, and we chose them, because we did choose them to come to Spotsylvania as well. So just all around, some really good things going on. I do want to mention Mr. Blaine's comment about our marching band. I agree. The buses, something I've mentioned before, that we're taking them to all the football games, so we can even just, if there's something we can start with, is that covering that cost, because I know the band boosters put in a lot. And then the CTE that you mentioned, Mr. Braswell, I'd mentioned, I think when I first got on the board, I would love to see a regional CTE program. The Perkins grant would be able to, other divisions would be able to take their Perkins grant, and we would be able to hope, I don't know how it all works, but maybe pool our grants together. And I mean, of course, this is my, thinking way outside of the box, but something right off of I-95 where we could have we could have some of the area divisions be participants in that as well. Of course, our students would get first seats, but something that I would love to see happen as well. State-of-the-art CTE center with all the cyber stuff, and because I know there are people in the audience who are my age and older maybe, that even this thing, we didn't even have any inkling. We had the big giant car phones. So we think of the jobs now that are out in the world that when we were children and in school, they weren't even around. We didn't even know that they were going to exist. So let's think of what is out there that could exist in the future for our kids that we have no idea is going to be happening. So just trying to get those skills, those outside skills, those soft skills that our students need and that they require, just to make sure that we're honing in on those soft skills as well. But that's all I have, and I just hope that everyone has an awesome school year.
I would also like to congratulate everybody on a great first day back. I heard wonderful things across the board. I want to thank all the staff members for making it so we could come back to school only 8 short weeks from our last day of school. And I have to, of course, highlight the maintenance department. Mr. Don Acapurco, Sean Hockaday, Rusty Davis, Barry Dickinson, and all the maintenance staff, because as we know, we always do our big projects in the summer, and for that to be condensed from 12 weeks to 8 weeks, which is why I voted against that to begin with. I thought it was impossible, but they got it done. And thank you very much for all the improvements and the custodial staff, everything. The schools got cleaned, and we got the entrances done, and we got an amazing amount of work done in 8 weeks, and it proved me wrong. So thank you very much for that amazing effort. I also want to take a moment for last school year to thank the staff and the students and the families, because it's a 100% group effort on helping us for the first time since they started these testing achieved the 100% accreditation. We are fully accredited again, to mention again, and I'm so happy that we've achieved that in such a short time. Just to further on some information that was said earlier, as we know, we embarked in a study by Mosley Architects 3 years ago, and that was on using our utilization study of our buildings and capacity study. And we are in phase 3 of capacity study. This goes to the redistricting comment of earlier. So if we are, as we learned in phase 1 of the capacity study, the total enrollment numbers are not accurate at all to judge capacity. So if we're going to ask for updated numbers, can we ask for updated enrollment by block numbers? That way we know how many students are actually in the building at each certain time during the day, not total enrollment, because we know that total enrollment is an inaccurate measurement of that. We also know the school that was mentioned earlier, by block, the students, we are not over capacity during any block as of when the study was done. So it would be nice to have an update on that. As we know, as part of phase 2 of that study, we also made a change for this year, which we don't know how the reflection of that change will be because we're still on the first day. But when we opened up some transfer ease this year with our policy that we changed, so we'll see if that helps relieve some stress on the block-by-block numbers at the school in question. And we also know that those are the next steps that were recommended by Mosley Architects, which we are in, is that we're going to look at those 3 options, which is modifications of redistricting, so redistricting by zone for new development especially. So until there is new develop, those neighborhoods that are already approved, until they're built, that does not give us the opportunity to redistrict by neighborhood. But the existing ones, we were, as discussed and voted after phase 2, we were going to wait and see how our policy change from last year affected enrollment. So that's all studied in prior meetings and the reports from Mosley Architects, which can be assessed online. I also wanted to mention, Dr. Meyer, that Mrs. Flanard has an amazing Excel spreadsheet. It's multiple pages of everything that every school in our system does for anti-bullying awareness. And so if you could just share that with the board, because when you shared it with me last year, I was shocked that we were doing so much at each school level, and I'm sure it's already expanded. So an updated list for the board, I think, would be very useful. And as far as Barron's comment on the Career and Tech Center, that was, of course, my baby when it started, and that's why Mr. Hockaday and I have taken it upon ourselves to visit Career and Tech Centers across the state, and all of my dreams that I come back with are shot down because we don't have any space. So a regional Career and Tech Center is, of course, what I would love to have as well. And it was actually mentioned a couple years ago at a regional chair of supervisors meeting. At the time, Chris Yakubowski was chair of the Board of Supervisors, and he was actually approached about such a thing, and he had heard about it from me. And so it's definitely on the radar, and we've definitely would love to keep moving forward with all those suggestions, and that's why I keep trying to visit as many VOTEC centers as I can and bring back the ideas. And the Giles County Agricultural Lab and Vocational Center was the most recent one that we went to, and the juniors and seniors each year build houses, mobile homes for Habitat for Humanity. So they're donated all the goods, and they provide all the labor, and at the end of the school year, they donate their home that they have built. And it's a great community service program. We just don't have room. So those sort of things I would love to keep being able to incorporate as soon as we get room and we get a plan for that. So I completely support you there. And I just hope that the rest of the school year runs as smoothly as the first day of school did. And that will, of course, bring us to item 16.01, any unfinished business. Mr. Braswell.
Just quickly, and I wanted to respond to Dr. Meyer on the, I asked staff, I guess a couple meetings ago, about a stipend study. We had more or less an evergreen study for pay scale. I wanted to have a stipend study. I know one of the courses of actions of some of the other counties are a percentage, so that would be something that we could explore. But I'd like to see all the different plans that are out there and see which one makes sense for us. But yes, our stipends are a decade or so behind, and we need to make sure that we do our best effort to make sure our stipends are competitive as well.
Any other unfinished business? Item 16.02, any new business? Dr. Meyer.
I'd like to piggyback on something that Mrs. Phelps said about Massaponax High School, and it's part of what I think you were talking about, in that as we've gone through the different phases, and now we're taking a look at what else can we do within the facility to garner space. And I know this summer, the hallways were widened some 4 feet, which is a tremendous amount of space to facilitate the flow of the student body. And I had heard or gotten wind of some ideas that are being tossed about, with Dr. Rodkey and Dr. Pisani and his staff on alternatives for use of space. And I think, that should all be incorporated in what you were asking for, I think, Ms. Phelps, as to how are we accommodating, if I read you correctly, your idea of how are we accommodating, the space utilization of Massaponax High School. Because before we go to any other expenditure, we need to be able to show that we're fully utilizing the current space. And if we've come up with some plans that would improve circulation and space utilization for Massaponax, it would apply very possibly to the other 2 schools, because they were on the same kind of structure or flow of student body and the kind of classroom. So I think all those are things that we truly need to explore and get some feedback as to how that is evolving this year, so that we can sense the impact both on the student body, and I agree wholeheartedly with block. We need to see it in the block utilization, because that's the truest utilization factor of the school. And with that, then we can make some informed decisions. Thank you.
Any other new business?
I just want to say something. So my concern is that we have the studies done by the architect firm that were done 3 years ago, or the phases. So I would ask that more current would structure block data from the schools, from the administration, just be shared with myself and the rest of the school board and the community, so that way the community knows that Massaponax School is overcrowded or is not overcrowded due to blocking. That's all I'm asking for, is an update on the status right now, which is a great idea, what you said, that would be brought back. And so that's what I'm asking for, because I have gotten a lot of feedback, and I just took the seat in January, so I wasn't privy to that information. So an updated current status of where we're at exactly with either redistricting or the exact data for our school system would be sufficient, I think, for the community to know. That's it.
Is there any other new business? That brings us to item 17. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We're now adjourned.